Incredible rescue of twins from a blizzard reveals, surprising first words that shocked the hero. The phone rang sharply, interrupting Jack's quiet night in the garage amid summer's lull. The desperate voice on the other end was electric with fear. Charlotte, his childhood friend, spoke of the storm closing around her twin children, Lily and Sam. The school bus trapped, stranded in the blizzard that was waging war against the small Midwestern town. Jack's heart sank as a chill swept through him, a fusion of urgency and a familiar sense of helplessness weighing heavily upon his broad shoulders. Jack closed his eyes. Memories undulated, laughter shared on playground swings, fleeting shadows of young love with Charlotte, the loss of her husband lingering like a festering wound. Was he really just a mechanic, or was he capable of being more? He stood alone beneath the harsh fluorescent lights of his workshop, a swirl of oil, metal, and doubt enveloping him. Each repair he executed, each tire changed, felt like an echo of voices that mocked his efforts to find meaning. The judgment he knew was etched into the faces of townspeople who barely knew the depths of his sacrifice. As the wind howled outside, biting cold seeped through the windows, rattling his growing unease. Community? His father's words echoed, but the noble ideals felt increasingly fragile. Jack gritted his teeth, steeling himself, but uncertainty twisted knots in his gut. He could help Charlotte, he could save her twins. But what of the judgment? What if his own fears, fueled by years of toil and isolation, consumed him as surely as the storm consumed the landscape? He took a breath, slamming the phone down and tossing on his coat. The howling wind shrieked like a banshee as he opened the door, stepping into the blizzard with trepidation and resolve colliding in a storm all their own. The snow clung to him, a biting reminder of past family gatherings forsaken in the name of work. Every crunch beneath his boots ignited memories of children playing baseball, adding layers to his regret. Jack's chest constricted as he questioned whether he was enough. Wonders of strength and fragility mixed in his mind. The snow swirled around him, and soon he saw a glint of red protruding from the snowbanks. The school bus. Jack's breath hitched. He sprinted forward, heart racing. With the flicker of hope igniting in his chest, he envisioned rescuing the twins, the warmth of their laughter, the innocent relief in their eyes. Yet as he neared the bus, shadows of doubt clawed at him once more. What if he couldn't bring them back? He approached the bus, gingerly making his way through the drifts. The sight of the twins huddled inside, wide, fearful eyes staring back at him, sent a jolt of determination through his veins. What would he say? "Are we going to be okay?" they whispered, the words echoing deeper than mere concern. Real concern washed over him, igniting something primal. Jack deeply longed to be more than just a mechanic, a ghost in the backdrop of life. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Encapsulated in that moment of warmth against the blistering cold, Jack felt the weight of his own dreams, brushing against the veil of what could be. A fire ignited within him, fighting against the years of solitude and longing as he wrapped the twins in blankets and led them safely. But as they trudged back through the chaos, Jack's vision fell upon Charlotte, standing at the edge of the growing crowd, her eyes shimmering with appreciation mixed with something deeper, perhaps fear or love. The voice in his head screamed louder than ever. Was this the moment to step beyond mere mechanics, to confront his worth in a world defined by ambition? An unyielding tension clawed at him as the stakes for which he debated the courage surged. Jack felt reality pressing. Would he ever have the strength to grasp all he yearned for? Or would the storm take it from him again, leaving him utterly alone? Jack's hands shook not just from the cold, but from a newfound determination as he stepped away from the school bus. The twins bundled tightly in his arms. Each cautious movement reminded him that he wasn't just moving through snow, but navigating the tangled web of his own doubts. The rush of the rescue, The warmth of the children against him provided a stark contrast to the icy wind that whipped around them. This was no longer just about mechanics or machinery. It was about the very fibers of his identity. He forged ahead through the biting storm, fueled by something deeper than survival. There was purpose now, something that had long eluded him. The path beneath his feet felt less like miles to cover and more like a journey toward reclaiming a sense of self that he thought he had lost. As he moved forward, Jack felt the eyes of the waiting crowd. He glimpsed recognition and gratitude from Charlotte, emotions that wrapped around his consciousness like a warm embrace. Yet, within that warmth simmered an uncomfortable heat of vulnerability. What if he stumbled? What if the weight of expectation overwhelmed him? Each crunch of snow sounded like a clarion call, amplifying the doubts in his mind. Was he really capable of being more than a mechanic? The depths of the storm mirrored the tumult in his heart. He had spent years in the shadows, never stepping into the light to claim what he could achieve or who he could be. It was only now, with the twins clutching him tightly, that he felt he might just break free from that shadow. As they pressed on, Jack's mind unwound itself. His childhood moments with Charlotte, the laughter and the dreams they had shared, came flooding back. They once spoke of changing the world in small ways, of taking leaps of faith that could lead to monumental shifts in their lives. But adulthood had imposed a heavy cloak of complacency upon him that he could no longer ignore. Guilt gnawed at him, amplifying the voices of past failures that had led him to a workshop instead of a life of impact. The icy air pierced through his coat, yet his pulse raced at the realization that he had a choice to confront those inner demons. Could love and friendship be the catalyst that propelled him to finally live with intention? Emerging from the chaos of the storm, Jack finally reached the throng of people eagerly awaiting news, an anxious sea of faces yearning for hope. The air was thick, muffled voices sounded like whirlwinds swirling around him. Despite feeling weary, adrenaline and conviction coursed through him. He positioned the twins at his sides, a protective barrier against the scrutiny he had so long feared. The crowd parted slightly as Jack approached Charlotte. Charlotte's gaze met his, her expression imbued with gratitude and something softer, almost wistful. Jack aligned himself with her, drawing strength from their shared history, but the writhing uncertainty remained. "Thank you, Jack," she murmured, her voice steady, yet layered with hidden emotions. Those words were an anchor and a challenge all at once. Would gratitude suffice? Jack had acted instinctively, yet here in their moment, he felt the pressing weight of the question lingering in the air. Could he be more than just the man who saved her children? In the silence of that moment where the world felt suspended, Jack came face to face with the truth he had hidden from for so long. He was capable, perhaps even destined, to approach life more defiantly. And yet, what would it take to embrace that risk? The moment lingered before the winds howled, pulling him back to the present. "There's something I need to tell you about the twins," he ventured, as uncertainty clawed back, ready to strike. But Charlotte's look urged him to go on, fueling a flicker of courage. Would he finally reveal the depths of his feelings, not just about the rescue but about what lay far beyond that fateful night? A new chapter beckoned, leaving Jack teetering on the precipice of change. Would he leap? Jack's breath came in sharp puffs, fogging in the frigid air as he grappled with the moment stretching before him. The twins clung close, their small hands grasping at his jacket in instinctive trust, just as he grasped for the words trapped in his throat. What do they need? He pondered, feeling the gravity of the question pressing like an anchor deep in his chest. The storm still raged behind him, but it was the internal tempest that loomed larger now. As he searched Charlotte's face, he recognized the duality of her expression, a reflection of gratitude and a hint of anticipation that left him teetering on the precipice of vulnerability. He could feel it, the shift in the air, as if the universe itself awaited his declaration. His heart raced, pounding a relentless rhythm that drowned out the howling wind. Was he ready to break the silence that had settled between them like an unwelcome guest? Was he prepared to step away from the comfortable yet suffocating role of the mechanic, the nameless savior? Who was Jack beyond the grease-stained hands and perpetual caution? "We need to talk, Jack," Charlotte urged, her voice steady yet laced with an urgency that snapped him back to the present moment. The weight of her gaze shifted from gratitude to a deeper, almost primal need for clarity. He took a breath, steadying himself against the emotional swell. "I know I saved the twins today, but—" His voice faltered, the words bitter upon his tongue. He feared what might emerge, not just about his feelings, but about himself. "But I can't just be the guy who came to the rescue." Charlotte's features softened, yet her eyes sparkled with an unyielding resolve. "But you were there when it mattered. You were brave, Jack, the man who saved them. That's significant." Something in her words sparked recognition. The man who saved them, not the mechanic, not the man lost in the shadows of self-doubt, but someone worthy of acknowledgement and love. He felt warmth creeping into the chill that encased them both, pushing back against the darkness he had harbored for so long. "But I've been hiding," he started, the truth unspooling like a tangled wire. "I've lived comfortably in my own limitations. I thought playing it safe was the way to keep everyone, myself included, out of harm's way." His voice carried a weight, tracing the contours of his past hesitations and regrets. Today felt different. "For the first time, I thought maybe I could be something more." Charlotte stepped closer, her presence enveloping him in a soft shield against lingering doubts. "You are capable of change, Jack. I saw it today. What else are you hiding from?" Her question echoed harshly, unearthing fragments of his soul he'd buried deep. He thought he was just a mechanic, but what if there lay a dormant passion within him, waiting for recognition and action? What if the twins' rescue was only the beginning of a larger transformation? "I've always wanted to build things that matter, but I became afraid of failure," he confessed, a frown creasing his brow. "What if I pushed myself and then fell short?" "Only by trying will you know," Charlotte implored gently, but insistently. His pulse quickened, igniting a flicker of tenacity that coalesced within him, stronger than the storms that surrounded them. "You're right. There's so much I want to do." He felt the urge to propel himself into action, not just for the twins, but for his own future. The crowd, still a sea of eager faces, faded momentarily as clarity magnified his purpose. Jackie began to unravel more thoughts, projects, ideas, dreams that had simmered quietly in the back of his mind, unwittingly stifled by his fear. What further risks could he take? What new paths could he carve out? Yet one undeniable truth surfaced. "This isn't just about me, Charlotte. If I step forward, I won't do it alone. I need you, by my side." He barely recognized the boldness in his own voice, yet there it was. A commitment firmly tethered to his newfound conviction. Unexpected silence saturated the air between them, punctuated only by the howling wind. Jack searched Charlotte's eyes for the affirmation he desperately needed, her acknowledgement of his transformation, his renewed sense of identity. "What I need, what I want to truly rebuild, I can't do it without courage. And courage requires honesty, doesn't it?" Her nod felt like a bridge tightening between them, while uncertainty pulsed in one's heart like a drum demanding allegiance to a shared purpose. Ready or not, he felt the shift towards embracing more than just his past. Would courage propel him not only to face his fears but to welcome the unknown? "Let's face it together, Jack," Charlotte replied, a resolute light blooming in her gaze, igniting a fire within him. Yet still, lingering doubts whispered questions in the back of his mind. What would the next steps entail? And would he have the strength to pursue a path far beyond what he imagined? As the winds roared and the snow continued to swirl around them, Jack took a deep breath, determination coursing through him. He was on the brink of monumental change, but the first steps stood before him with daunting uncertainty. What lay ahead was as enthralling as it was terrifying. He felt the call to face not just his fears but the ghosts that had kept him shackled for too long. Would he dare to venture into the unknown, ready to embrace the journey finally awaiting him? Jack's thoughts whirled as he and Charlotte emerged from their momentary cocoon of vulnerability. The storm raged outside, but the deafening bluster felt minimized in the wake of their shared resolve. He was acutely aware of the twins behind him, their wide eyes reflecting both awe and faith. It grounded him, pulled him back to a point where he had begun to redefine himself, not just through the lens of his past, but through aspirations that had been long dormant. "Okay," Jack said, his voice steadier than he felt. "Let's start today." Charlotte's gaze flickered with surprise at the sudden shift in his tone. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I think I need to make my desires a reality. The twins, they showed me that life is fragile, full of unpredictable moments that can ignite passion or dull it into complacency." He hesitated, grounding his commitment in the recognition of tangible honesty. "I want to create something, not just as a mechanic but as a builder, a creator." With a nod, Charlotte stepped back, giving him space to fill in the contours of his ambition. "What do you envision?" "I want to develop something to protect against the weather, something that changes lives." Infused with determination, lines of inspiration etched into his mind. "I've been thinking about insulated shelters, a way to ensure families aren't just safe indoors but empowered to confront these storms with confidence." Charlotte tilted her head thoughtfully. "And how do you plan on starting?" Jack clenched his jaw, battling uncertainty, yet simultaneously invigorated by Charlotte's genuine interest. "I'll write down every idea. I'll find the materials, design, and—" His heart raced. He was experiencing an internal struggle too familiar, yet rebuffed. "But what if they don't work? What if I fail? Failure doesn't define you unless you let it." Her words sliced through the fog of doubt enveloping him. "What's important is that you try. You're not the same man who hid behind the mechanic's grease-stained facade." The shift in self-perception rocked him, forcing him to confront the truth. Waiting for the perfect moment had kept him stagnating. "You're right." He grinned. Vulnerability was morphing into authenticity. "I don't want to look back and regret not attempting anything." He abruptly scattered his fears, discussing thoughts he'd never voiced, dreams that expanded with each pulsating beat of hope. "I can draw on my skills, and with your support, I can reach out for help. I can pitch ideas." Each word felt liberated from the confines of doubt. "Then do it," Charlotte urged, her enthusiasm contagious. "Speak to those who listen, maybe even potential investors." Jack's anxiety clashed with exhilaration. His mind raced through possibilities, conversations with local businesses, networking. What had he been waiting for? "Why do I fear reaching out? It's just a conversation." Charlotte stepped closer, her warmth radiating comfort against the biting cold. "Because every call to action carries the risk of rejection. It's a significant, yet familiar fear we all face. But living in fear, it's an even heavier burden." He consumed her words, reflecting on the weight he had borne alone for far too long. "You're right. Rejection is part of growth," he stated, voice firmer, resolved. "I won't let it stop me anymore." His spirit soared. Clarity had broken through the fog. Yet at that moment a flicker of reality prickled his confidence. "What if they don't see value in my ideas? I'll be with you every step of the way," Charlotte reassured him, her smile brightening the dim atmosphere. "This isn't just about your creations, Jack. It's about your journey. You will discover your potential." Jack marveled at her unwavering faith. It stirred something deep within, challenging him to confront the demons of his self-doubt. Standing amidst the chill and uncertainty, he felt adrenaline course through his veins, fueled by a dawning realization. Every decision he made from this moment forward wasn't just a step towards his ambitions, but a rejection of his past limitations. "What's next?" he asked, ignited by his invigorated purpose. Charlotte's expression morphed into an encouraging challenge. "Research your ideas. Sketch designs. Write a proposal. Then venture out to engage with potential partners." Jack nodded fervently. The path seemed clearer now, charged with an urgency he'd never known. "I'll start tonight." But doubt still lingered. If he stepped forward, there would be no turning back. Would courage blossom into tenacity or wilt under pressure? As the winds howled their relentless symphony, Jack felt ready to leap into the unknown. The quest ahead palpitated with anticipation, shadowed by fear, but illuminated by an undeniable determination. The stakes were rising, and as Jack prepared to break through his self-imposed barriers, one question lingered. Was he truly prepared for what lay beyond the familiar comfort of doubt? Jack's fingers hovered over the blank page, each idle moment amplifying the hum of uncertainty thrumming through his veins. A simple sketch of an insulated shelter danced in his mind, its lines bold yet warm, the shape inviting, promising safety against nature's fiercest blows. But translating those thoughts into reality felt daunting. It wasn't just a structure, it represented everything he was striving to become. He inhaled deeply, the cold air biting at his lungs, reminding him that clarity often birthed in adversity. Charlotte had given him a push. No longer could he afford to linger in indecision. He needed a plan. But where to start? The task ahead felt both monumental and liberating. With a burst of determination, Jack grabbed a pencil and began drafting. The initial lines seemed timid, but each stroke gained strength. Ideas flowed as if the dam of doubt had shattered. He envisioned not only physical shelter, but an embodiment of resilience. Something families could trust during tumultuous weather. Days passed and turned into nights as he sketched relationships between materials and designs, each more expansive than the last, illuminating barriers he had once considered insurmountable. Yet shadows lurked. Each time he put the pencil down, a paralyzing fear gripped him. What if his ideas didn't resonate? What if this venture was a grave mistake? Reflexively, his mind darted back to when he had hovered in the mechanical workshop, silent and hesitant, overshadowed by the vastness of possibility. The dread wrapped around him, constricting his breath. In these moments of darkness, he found solace by revisiting Charlotte's words. Rejection could not define him. It was merely a stepping stone to growth. With the haunting echo of her encouragement, he forged ahead, determined to take tangible steps toward fulfilling this vision. Jack reached out to local suppliers and builders via email. He crafted each message carefully, embedding enthusiasm into his words, a stark contrast to the hesitation that had shackled him for so long. The first few responses were lukewarm, typical of an uncertain economy, yet he refused to collapse under their weight. Each rejection forged a new layer of resilience. He grew accustomed to the discomfort, understanding that vulnerability was the crucible for innovation. As he persisted, a shred of motivation emerged from unexpected corners. One evening, while attending a community meeting about upcoming weather prediction technologies, he struck up a conversation with a local architect, fascinated by sustainable structures. Their discussion deepened his perspective, igniting a new fire in his belly. He wasn't just a mechanic asking for help. Here he was, an innovator collaborating with experienced professionals. The architect's enthusiasm matched Jack's vision, and he offered to meet regularly to refine designs, strengthening Jack's resolve. The sense of camaraderie buoyed him, highlighting the invisible threads of support he had always mistakenly believed he lacked. But as he juggled his commitments, the pressure increased. Drafting proposals and networking took hours away from his day, and nagging worries about maintaining his job at the garage clawed at him. The familiarity of old anxieties surfaced, a reminder of the security he risked losing. He found himself questioning the time dedicated to this potentially foolhardy endeavor. One day, weary and worn as the chill of winter settled over the town, Jack succumbed to the weight of doubt. With small hands experiencing the first stirrings of fright behind him, his thoughts spiraled towards abandoning the dream entirely. The twins, though silent in their respective corners, appeared to reflect his internal battle. A sudden swirl of turbulence caught in a tempest he desperately sought to escape. But then he recalled the spark that ignited this journey, his desire to protect. If he faltered now, he wouldn't just let himself down, he would disregard the very reason he started this quest. Jack straightened, determination flooding his heart once more. It wasn't just about succeeding, it was about challenging himself to demonstrate strength, resilience, and ultimately, purpose. Tomorrow, he murmured to himself, I'll present my ideas to potential investors. The thought set off a flurry of urgency. He needed to prepare, and the initial tremors of nervous anticipation surged through him. Was he truly ready to share his vision, to brave the sharp teeth of critique? One thing loomed above all. The moment of truth had arrived. What awaited him on the other side of that threshold? Would his fervor flourish, or would it crumble in the face of scrutiny? Jack woke with the soft light of dawn breaking through his window, illuminating the cluttered desk where dreams danced among the sketches and notes scattered across the surface. Today was the day. Today, he would unveil his vision. The echo of the architect's reassurance still resonated within him, rekindling the embers of his determination. Yet beneath that excitement lay a thick veil of anxiety. Each breath felt heavy, each heartbeat a reminder of the stakes. What if the investors saw only the flaws in his designs? What if the months of sleepless nights and self-doubt bore no fruit? He stood up from his desk, pacing the room. Anxiety had become a familiar companion, but today he needed focus. He pulled his sketches from the desk, examining them as if they held the weight of his entire future. Each line represented hours of grinding away at his fears, each correction an act of defiance against the life he had outgrown. Jack could see the potential in every curve and intersection, a blend of innovation and sustainability. But would the investors appreciate it? Stop second-guessing, he muttered under his breath, grounding himself. He recalled Charlotte's voice cutting through the fog of uncertainty. This was not about seeking approval. It was about sharing his passion and purpose with others. He allowed that thought to settle, anchoring his fluttering heart. With a deep breath, Jack readied himself for the meeting. He meticulously dressed, opting for a casual shirt, a balance between professionalism and the authenticity he wanted to convey. As he caught his reflection, he noticed a flicker of determination in his eyes. It was time to own his narrative fully. The drive to the conference room felt surreal, the city falling away outside the car window. The world seemed to stretch its arms in anticipation of the unfolding moment. Jack clenched his hands on the steering wheel, suppressing the urge to turn back. He pictured the faces of the twins waiting back home, innocent and trusting, unaware of the turmoil that churned inside him. Their faith in him fueled his resolve. Upon arrival, he was greeted by a group of impeccably dressed investors who exuded confidence, their languid movements contrasting sharply with Jack's brisk pace. He took a moment, inhaling the scent of freshly brewed coffee wafting through the room, hoping to draw strength from it. As he stepped toward the front, the room quieted and silence wrapped around him like a thick fog. "Thank you for this opportunity," he began, his heart racing faster than he could control. Jack glanced at his slides, detailed designs showcasing a seamless blend of functionality and sustainability. With each passing moment, his voice grew more robust, building upon Charlotte's belief that authenticity would attract what he sought. His passion spilled forth, filling the space with an energy he had hoped would resonate. He detailed his vision, speaking of insulated shelters, safe havens amidst nature's fury, bringing families back to one another. As he shared, Jack noticed the subtle shifts in the investors' expressions, the widening eyes, nods of interest. It was exhilarating yet terrifying, the duality of vulnerability and strength surfacing as he revealed himself in a way he never thought possible. But then came the questions, sharp and pointed, tearing at the layers of confidence he had so carefully constructed. What if your designs fail? What's your fallback plan? The words felt like a punch, sending a jolt through his core. He could sense the skepticism, the drowning weight of their scrutiny. Suddenly his fear bubbled up, clawing at his composure as he faced their confrontation head-on. This was the moment that would define him, not just as an inventor, but as a person. "Well," he started slowly, his mind racing through the thousands of hours he had dedicated, his soul woven into every detail of the design. There was a spark igniting within him, a realization that not only were these designs born from hardship, but also from an unwavering commitment to protecting what mattered most. "I won't allow failure to be an option. I'm committed to innovating, adapting, and making this right." As he spoke, Jack caught glimpses of understanding flicker in their expressions. Slowly, even their skepticism began to thaw. Perhaps, just perhaps, they sensed the raw earnestness in his ambition. The meeting drew to an uncertain close, leaving Jack in a whirlwind of emotions. He stepped outside, breathless and drenched in a blend of adrenaline and apprehension. Had he moved the needle? Had they grasped the essence of his dream? But as doubt crept back in, Jack felt a vibration within, fierce and unwavering. He realized, regardless of the outcome, his journey had only just begun. The next crucial step loomed ahead. Would he be able to keep the momentum going, fight against those inner voices? And then, as if the universe sensed his internal shift, an email chimed on his phone. It was from the architect, an invitation to a new collaborative project that could change everything. What lies beyond this new opportunity? Jack wondered aloud, heart racing as he glimpsed the next horizon. He realized that the stakes of this journey were shifting, propelling him toward a destiny he could scarcely envision yet, a future woven with trials, triumphs, and uncharted potentials that awaited his exploration. Jack found himself staring at his phone, the architect's message glowing bright against the backdrop of his swirling thoughts. "Let's collaborate," it read, "on a revolutionary project to design sustainable community hubs." The words tugged at his senses, a mixture of excitement and fear flooding his mind. This was the moment for transformation, the kind he had longed for yet dreaded in equal measure. Setting his phone down, he took a step back, forcing himself to breathe. The whirlwind of possibilities cascaded through him, and with every pulse of adrenaline, he questioned his capacity for this leap. Could he sync his vision with another's? Would they mold his design or stifle his spirit? In the following hours, Jack tried to keep himself busy, moving through sketches and calculations. Yet every line and curve felt infused with doubt. He couldn't shake off the feeling that accepting this offer might expose shortcomings he still wasn't ready to confront. A fear of inadequacy that gnawed at him. Hours slipped by as he wrestled with the decision. Should he dive into this partnership or refine his original vision independently? As daylight faded, he mounted his thoughts onto the blank canvas of the wall in front of him. Each sticky note represented a potential reaction, both hopeful and disastrous. He closed his eyes, imagining working alongside the architect, fostering ideas that could bring communities together. But there was also the possibility of failure looming. Who would take the blame if the project didn't succeed? The fear of letting others down mirrored his fears about disappointing his children, the pressure of livelihoods hanging in the balance. He could almost hear their trusting laughter, a sound that now felt layered with expectation. Jack knew he needed clarity, so he reached for his notebook and penned down his thoughts. What do I want from this collaboration? Who is this architect, truly? How can my vision align with theirs without losing myself? As he wrote, he started uncovering the deeper motivations behind his work. He yearned to create a legacy, but with whom? Later that night, he gathered the courage to respond to the email. With trembling fingers, Jack typed, "I am interested in discussing this project further, but I have questions. How do you envision integrating personal designs with communal needs? What are the social implications?" Once he hit send, a weight lifted slightly, but the sense of vulnerability returned tenfold. Questions raced through his mind. Would he regret opening this door? Would this architect appreciate the passion he poured into his creations? In his heart, he felt the echo of his earlier presentation, where he faced scrutiny but emerged with a conviction he hadn't known was there. Maybe this was a continuation of that fight, a chance for growth not just as an architect, but as a person committed to the impact he could create. The night stretched on, and his thoughts spun with a mix of anticipation and dread. His resolve to evolve mixed with the words of Charlotte creeping back. Authenticity over approval. He needed to embrace this chance not as a potential trap, but as an outlet for growth, perhaps even mentorship. As the clock ticked past midnight, Jack felt an electric buzz in the air, a sensation that something significant was on the horizon. His phone buzzed again, this time signaling a reply. Quickening his pace, he opened the message, holding his breath. The architect's words ignited a flicker of hope, but embedded within were questions that would push Jack's resolve. What do you truly want your legacy to reflect? And how can we elevate that together? What if this partnership demanded more than he anticipated? Could it lead him toward the kind of growth he needed? Or would it unravel the very fabric of his ideals? Jack knew he was on the cusp of something transformative, but with it came the reality that he must confront the essence of who he is and what he represents in the world of design. Decisions awaited, and with each passing heartbeat the stakes soared higher. Could he solidify his place without losing the integral parts of himself? Jack stared at the screen, the architect's question echoing in his mind, a refrain that gripped his consciousness. What did he truly want his legacy to reflect? The answer danced just out of reach, taunting him as he stared blankly at the wallpaper of his phone, a kaleidoscope of visions yet unformed. Each potential response felt like a puzzle piece that refused to fit. He pushed away from his desk, the chair squeaking in protest, and stepped out onto the balcony. The cool night air brushed against his skin, grounding him amid the swirling chaos within. The city sprawled beneath him, a tapestry of lights, each flickering place holding stories begging to be transformed through his art. He inhaled deeply, pulling the faint scent of fresh rain into his lungs, searching for inspiration from the world he inhabited. It struck him then. His legacy wasn't just about buildings or designs, it was about influence, empowerment, and connection. His role as an architect could become a bridge between what he believed in and what communities hungered for. But all of this required vulnerability, taking risks that could either elevate him or expose him. His earlier fears resurfaced like tide waves, crashing against his resolve. What if he committed to this partnership and lost his uniqueness in the murky waters of collaboration? With a deep breath, he forced himself to encompass those doubts, recognize them, and transform them into fuel. Ignoring the discomfort would only serve to strengthen the hesitancy that stifled his growth. Returning to his sketchboard, Jack grabbed a marker and meticulously began outlining what he envisioned. Not just structures, but ecosystems where designs could breathe, interact, and evolve. Personal designs would be the spine of a collaborative project, but they wouldn't dominate. They would harmonize with the community's needs. He imagined a living space where children played, neighbors interacted, and ideas flourished. The act of creation sparked something deep within him. With each stroke on the page, he was not merely crafting buildings but laying the foundations of his aspirations. They would be interwoven with his values, accentuating his authenticity rather than detracting from it. If he could embrace the possibility of mentorship, perhaps he could inspire others to seek their truth as well. Then a challenging thought struck him. What if in taking this leap he stumbled? It could happen he could falter and confront parts of himself he'd rather keep hidden. Would that defeat him or build him up? The thought of failure lingered, but rather than possess him, it transformed into something palpable and real, a lesson he would learn, not a sentence of defeat. Morning light crept in as the first rays of dawn kissed the horizon. An idea crystallized. He would embrace this opportunity not with trepidation, but with active curiosity. He envisioned discussing not just mutual designs but sharing ideologies as well. They could explore the philosophical underpinnings of architecture, how form meets function, how purpose drives aesthetics. Fixed in determination, Jack turned back to his phone. The message from the architect beckoned him, a challenge wrapped in possibility. He tapped out a new response, this time infused with clarity and introspection. He expressed enthusiasm for their upcoming meeting, and suggested they delve deeper into discussing values and visions, laying the groundwork for a collaboration that would respect both their identities. As he hit send, Jack felt the remnants of uncertainty shed like old skin. Emerging now was a newfound confidence, a realization that this partnership could propel him further into the architect he aspired to be. He could elevate his legacy, establishing a platform that embraced both his design philosophy and the communal myths he wished to create. But with the flicker of excitement came the flicker of anxiety. Would the architect truly resonate with his vision? How would they react when he revealed the raw edges of his identity and ambition? As he stood at the interface of possibility, Jack knew this was only the beginning. The moment of confrontation awaited, where he would not only meet another's expectations, but would challenge his own to grow beyond what he thought possible. Jack awoke the next morning with the sunlight streaming through the blinds. a gentle reminder of the fresh opportunities ahead of him. The meeting with the architect loomed in his mind, a swirl of anticipation and fear mixing beneath the surface. He could practically hear the hum of the city waking, a symphony urging him to step firmly into his vision. Today would determine not just the course of a professional relationship, but the trajectory of his career. As he dressed, Jack's mind raced with possibilities and potential pitfalls. What if they didn't understand his philosophy? What if they dismissed his ideas as naive? These anxieties tangled with a steely determination. He was ready to break free of his self-imposed limitations. Confidence surged within him, fueled by purpose. A design rooted in authenticity was waiting to be born. He arrived at the architect's office, a sleek modern space that felt both vibrant and intimidating. Upon entering, he was greeted by large windows framing a panoramic view of the skyline. The meeting room was filled with models and drawings, little echoes of others' visions vying for attention. Jack's heart raced as he took a seat, mentally preparing himself to articulate what mattered most. The architect entered, a figure of poise and confidence. They exchanged pleasantries before diving into the heart of the matter. Jack felt a glow of exhilaration, along with an undercurrent of doubt trickling through his veins. This was it, the moment to articulate his ideals or risk being overshadowed. "I envision a project that transcends traditional architecture," he began, his voice steady despite the pounding in his chest. "It's about creating spaces that ignite connections, foster community, and reflect our shared values. The designs should integrate seamlessly with the lives of those who inhabit them." He watched for signs of resonance, searching the architect's expression for a spark of understanding. To his surprise, the architect leaned in, intrigued. "You're asking for a transformation not just in structure but in mindset. But how do you plan to achieve such integration without sacrificing the individual design elements?" The challenge ignited a fire within Jack. "That's where collaboration comes in," he replied, fueled by his visions from the night before. "Each design can tell its own story while simultaneously melding with the surroundings. The inhabitants can contribute to their evolution. It becomes a living space, a dialogue between the architect and the community. Together we can create a framework that invites inputs beyond aesthetics." He could see the architect nodding thoughtfully, their skepticism beginning to wane. Encouraged, Jack continued, exploring the essence of his vision with fervor. He discussed the importance of mentorship, of empowerment through creation. Each word felt deliberate, a foundation being laid for his legacy. When the architect posed a question about how setbacks in past projects might shape his current approach, Jack felt a sharp pang of vulnerability. He hesitated. Sharing his struggles felt like exposing raw flesh. But in that moment, clarity struck him. If he couldn't represent his full self, successes intertwined with failures, how could he expect to inspire others? "My approach comes from a place of trial and error," Jack confessed, allowing himself a moment of honesty. "Failure has been my reluctant teacher. It's shaped my vision, forcing me to confront what works and what doesn't. Each misstep has contributed to the architect I am today." As the session came to a close, Jack noticed an unexpected sense of respect reflected in the architect's eyes. The conversation had morphed from transactional to transformative. They had begun to find a common ground, a fertile soil for future possibilities. Leaving the office, Jack felt as if some unshackled part of him soared. He had unveiled pieces of himself that he had previously concealed, and through that act of sharing, he had redefined their partnership. Yet, as he walked away, a new wave of anxiety washed over him. Would the architect embrace the direction they had begun to outline? The thought nagged at him, an unsettling reminder that they were only at the beginning of a long journey. Jack needed to find a way to keep this momentum, to ensure that the budding partnership didn't stagnate under the weight of expectations or external pressures. As hope tangled with uncertainty, Jack determined he would not shy away from the challenge. He needed to act not just as an architect, but as a visionary who faced the unknown. Would he be able to carve a path that respected both personal integrity and collective aspirations? And as he pondered this question, a text message pinged on his phone, jolting him back to reality. It was from the architect, seeking a follow-up meeting to discuss further conceptual ideas. Electric anticipation surged through Jack. Perhaps they were ready to dive even deeper into creating something extraordinary. But lurking beneath that excitement was a final, lingering fear. What if the next meeting uncovered yet another layer of his professional inadequacies? Jack approached the next meeting with a blend of anticipation and apprehension. As he stepped into the architect's office once more, he reminded himself of the journey thus far, the transformation that had taken root within him. No longer just a mechanic in a small-town garage, he was evolving into a creator, poised to make an impact that extended beyond individual walls. The buzz in the air was palpable as he sat down, feeling the weight of shared ideas ready to emerge and flourish. The architect joined him, a partner in this endeavor, their excitement matching Jack's own. "Jack, I've been thinking about our conversation," the architect began, "and I believe we should explore the integration of community feedback in our designs. Let's make the hub a gathering point where people contribute their ideas directly." Jack's heart swelled at the architect's vision. The concept mirrored his own ideology about shared spaces, and for the first time, he realized he wasn't alone in this journey. They were two creative forces merging, grounded in the same aspirations. Instead of feeling like the underdog, Jack saw himself as a vital contributor, someone with unique insights and experiences worth sharing. "Absolutely," he replied, radiating confidence. "Each family involved can provide perspectives that will ultimately make our designs more functional and meaningful." As they delved into a wealth of ideas, brainstorming designs, considering building materials and tweaking sketches, Jack felt invigorated. They were crafting a new identity for their collaborative project, one that bore the marks of their individual voices. Days turned to weeks and the relationship flourished into a synergy neither had anticipated. Jack began to define his role within the partnership, no longer simply an ornament to another's ambitions, but a full-fledged participant working toward tangible goals. He leaned into this newfound stability, invigorating his commitments with determination and passion. One evening, as Jack reviewed their designs and notes, realization dawned upon him. They weren't just building shelters. They were constructing a future that represented integrity, safety, and community. The legacy he sought to create had begun to take shape in his mind. Each design imbued with the essence of collaboration, reflecting both his vision and the aspirations of those who would inhabit these spaces. Yet lurking beneath the surface was the persistent question of self-worth. What would his former peers think? Would they see the greatness that was unfolding, or would they dismiss him as just another dreamer? Fear began to fester once more. But Jack understood that this time he had tools to sift through that doubt. At the subsequent project review with the architect, Jack spoke candidly. "I realize I've faced my fears, but the voices still linger from my past." The architect, perceptive and understanding, nodded. "It's an ongoing challenge, Jack. Recognizing those shadows is half the battle. You've come so far. Don't let those doubts tighten their grip. Remind yourself why you're here." With renewed clarity, Jack embraced this reflection. Over the following days, he initiated conversations with community members through focus groups, integrating feedback with fervor and zeal. Each meeting became a cornerstone, foundational to the trust that was forming. The anonymous faces began to transform into friends, each interaction deepening his resolve and altering how he viewed his abilities as an architect. The breakthrough came when they held a town hall to present their completed designs. The community buzzed with expectation, hopeful for a space that championed unity. As Jack stood before them, he felt nothing but resolve. There, in the dimly lit room, he saw reflections of the twins, the laughter shared, the weight of responsibility resting on his shoulders, reminding him that change began by stepping forward, even amid uncertainty. "Today," he began, his voice steady and unwavering, "I present to you a vision that we all helped create. It's not just a collection of buildings, it's a place where families unite, a space that listens to your stories and your needs." The room filled with murmurs of encouragement, eyes sparkling with interest. As he elaborated on concepts, integrating spaces for gatherings, play areas, and sustainability practices, He spotted Charlotte in the back, her face illuminated with pride. In that moment, he understood that he wasn't just surviving in this landscape. He was thriving, transforming not just himself, but impacting those around him. The concluding cheers erupted like thunder, resonating through him. The applause, accompanied by expressions of hope from the community, validated his journey and reaffirmed that he was no longer a ghost lost in the background. He had arrived, stepping firmly into the light of recognition, conviction solidified in his being. Weeks later, as construction on the first hub began, Jack relished each moment. He felt a sense of ownership in this project, one born from pain, sacrifice, and ultimately discovery. Building not just structures, but a legacy that would inspire others echoed through him. With every nail driven, every beam set into place, the doubts that once echoed in his mind faded like a distant memory. Jack had shattered the confines of his past, proving that one could indeed rise above fears and transform them into stepping stones for innovation and connection. As he stepped back to admire his work, he realized he had achieved what he believed was impossible. Each grain of dust in the building site represented not just a physical space, but an emotional tapestry woven from his challenges, triumphs, and evolving identity. Standing tall and resolute, Jack had indeed become a beacon of what it means to step into one's true potential and embrace the beautiful chaos of life. The journey ahead remained uncharted, but Jack was ready to face it, confident in his role, not just as a mechanic, not just as an architect, but as a creator empowered by authenticity, acknowledging that the adventure of life would always hold room for growth. Now I urge you, subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.